we got to talk about Andor, because a lot of people have come and
a lot of super chats asking about it.
A lot of super chats asking about it. Why don't we start with just some images I want to bring up, because really we're talking about the last 3 episodes of this season 2. Episode 10 is really all this woman's character, Clara.
Clara. She's a British actress,
and this is her first acting role ever out of school. It's her first major role she's ever been.
Well, I mean, I think, look, she's an interesting figure that, is sort of in the shadows, the background as a smaller character for much of this show, for both seasons. And then in this entire episode is dedicated to her. And I thought it was an Emmy.
Which is called Make It Stop.
Yeah. Make It Stop.
Oof.
Make It Stop. Because, you discover her backstory, how she even ended up with this Luthen character and plotting this rebellion, right? And I thought the performance in there was Emmy worthy. And I'm really excited to see what other work she does.
So let's back up. These 3 episodes take place. This is it. Year 1, baby. We're in. Literally, I'd say the way the 3 episodes begin, we're days before Rogue One. Literally days before Rogue One. We don't even see Andor in this episode. It's so brilliant, man. It's so
That's
brilliant.
how confident Gilroy is in the story. He's like, we'll take our main character out of the whole episode.
Because
we're so invested in her now.
Well, not only that, but Luthen. We got to give him his time. So they figured out, Deidre's figured out Luthen, and she's coming after him
well, I mean, he's been taken away. There's going to be spoilers here, but he's been taken away to a hospital because when caught, he attempts to off himself, which operatives committed to a cause will often do. And so he doesn't quite succeed. They take him to a hospital.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. So before all that, he finds out what the Death Star is all about.
Yes, that's it.
They don't. This is key, because we get the rebel spies now. Yeah. Who found this out? What is that?
No, there's somebody over there on that side. Somebody shouting over there, whatever.
Gotcha.
It's good being a nice, active community.
Yeah. The rebel spies. So basically, he gets this information. He relays it to her, saying, "Look, we got to go. We got to get rid of everything here on Coruscant, and we got to go. I'll meet you there." She's like, "No, let me do the burn," meaning let me destroy our radios and our equipment.
But even before that, again, I don't want to take away all the things. Let's just say that he takes care of how that information is conveyed to him in a very shocking way, because he's got to compartmentalize that information. And so it reveals, it also explains why Andor will do certain things at the beginning of Rogue One, because he's been trained by the same guy. Yeah, you got to control information in a situation like that. And so they're kind of on the run, but really he's expecting this. This is finally going to happen. Is that he's confronted and he tries to take himself out. He doesn't die right away, so he's in the hospital, and basically she plans to get into the hospital. And we think they're to rescue him. We think that's the call. Right. And we'll just leave it at that, because it's for those who haven't seen the episode. That's certainly the whole thing is a buildup of their relationship. And essentially he's a father figure for her who's rescued her from Imperial cruelty. She's from a planet that's been ravaged by the Imperials, and he saved her instead of killing her when the order was to kill everybody there.
Right. So there's this other timeline happening when she was a kid, and now he found her. And this storyline. So you got the present time, and then you got the back. And
it's pretty much edited back and forth.
It's really cool. It's really well done.
And again, it's very well done, because each edit is based on the character moment. Like, why is she doing certain things? Well, let's go back to her childhood.
Yeah. So then we're gonna move on to, they all blend into each other, which is the next episode. Who else knows? That's what the episode is called.
Yeah.
Meaning, who else knows about the Death Star?
Yeah,
because the Krennic, and then all the cronies are freaking out.
Yeah,
that it leaked out to Luthen that the rebels, that the rebellion is a real thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
And but you think about it, this is actually this show is very believable in so many levels of how a insurgency and all these things start, right? It's very believable, but also that whole thing about how the information is contained about the Death Star, because you think about the Trinity experiment, the Trinity project to build the atom bomb. It had probably several 100,000 people were involved in some part of it, right? Some widget, some this, some that, but none of them, except for maybe 30 people at Los Alamos, knew what they were doing. Right. I actually, in college, one of my professors had been an assistant at Los Alamos, and he'd been there. He was there at the Trinity test. He actually brought sand from the original Trinity blast, right, that he had gathered after he could go down there, and he shared stories, incredible, painful stories, how many people actually died from radiation exposure during experimentation, the things that they were doing, right? That for colleagues, we don't even know a lot of the story of what happened at Los Alamos, but he didn't know the full story for a while. As to what he's at Alamos, he doesn't know what they're doing, right? And that's how incredibly controlled it was. And so this is why the Death Star, which is the galactic equivalent of the atom bomb, which is taking technology of mass destruction to a level beyond anything anyone had ever imagined, had to be controlled. And so the danger of anybody, the fact is that 99% of people involved in Death Star don't know what they're doing. Probably the engineers sitting there, the construction workers, didn't know what they were building.
She's a great example of someone who believed in the Empire. Yeah. Believed in...
So with Deidre,
sorry. Yes. Deidre's character. And then in the end, because of her, being who she is,
but that's the thing. Someone on the Patreon said this. My Patreon said this. They're like, the flaw of the Empire is that they would throw everybody under the bus.
Yep,
they would betray everybody. Vader's like, you make one mistake, he just votes shows you, right? So that you can't create loyalty that way. When the slightest mistake or the slightest, she's trying to help the Empire. Maybe she's trying to do it for her own glory and trying to crack this guy, right? Part of that came from the fact that she had been tracking this guy for years. No one took her seriously, and now she found him when even she'd been taken off the case. So she wanted to prove herself, right? That's human. That's believable motivation. And it goes wrong, and there's actually a genius of that. If you remember in the first Timothy Zahn Thrawn novel, in the original extended universe, right, which to me is still canon. I don't think it was decanonized in my mind, at least. But what so you have this thing where there's this incredible moment in that first novel where we've established that it's a setup and payoff. There's a scene in the novel where Thrawn, because he's got all these conscripts working on his Star Destroyer, people that have been forced there against their will to serve the Empire, and it's now that it's in retreat under the New Republic, and one of the people on the ship sort of talks back to him, and you can see this guy's going to be a problem, so he just kills him right there, as Vader would, right?
Yeah,
and everyone's scared of him. Then many chapters down later, there's this moment where they're trying to capture Skywalker, and one sort of low-level techie guy almost captures him using a tractor beam and goes out of his way to pull it off, right? And he doesn't succeed, but he damages Luke so that they can track his ship now.
Yeah.
And he fails at it, and Thrawn calls him up, and he's like, "You failed." Yeah. And Thrawn calls him up, and everyone is terrified. He's like,
"Well, Luke did a trick with his X-wing,
right? That he got out of that situation,
right?"
But in that moment, what happens is you're scared because you've had the setup of that moment. It's going to just like the old Empire. You fail, you die, right? And he goes, but your effort to capture Skywalker was so ingenious and so out of the bounds of your thing. I'm promoting you right now, right? And the book says correctly at that moment he won over the loyalty of the entire imperial remnant, because they're like, this guy's worth fighting for because he will reward us for trying.
So let's move on. So Krennic really comes in and tells his buddy Leo, I tried to protect you as much as I could. They're coming at you're done. She's done because of her. She just flubbed up again, and then I believe one of her counterparts kind of takes over the investigation with what's happening with the radio and all that.
Yeah.
They basically track down the Clara, the character Clea, and that she's going to be rendezvoused at these apartment complexes in Coruscant. And was it K2SO?
K2, yeah.
He was fantastic.
I mean, I just love that droid. That droid, I had forgotten how much I love that droid from Rogue One. And it's the only droid you really. It's like they're like R2 or 3PO. You care about them. When he died in Rogue One, I actually was really sad. He's just a machine. He's not alive, but you care about him, and now you see why you care about him, because even he's so there, for just a couple of episodes, and you're in love with him again.
Right, and how he was revitalized Frankenstein style after.
I love that scene where they don't, because these K2, we finally see how dangerous these droids are.
Man.
They're like Terminators, right? And you see that in action. And so when they're like, the idea of repurposing him and reprogramming him, it's like reprogramming, Terminator 2, reprogramming Arnold. And you imagine that when the resistance against the machines did that, they probably had that moment, like when they turned Arnold on, they probably had all their guns on him. It's like, is this dude did it work? Is it work? And it was really well done, right?
So there is a standoff in trying to save Clara, Diego, Andor, and another buddy that we see in Rogue One as well. That character, they're stuck with her and the Empire cronies. So K2 comes to the rescue, and that was a great little buildup, and then. Yeah. How he uses one of them as a shield.
Oh yeah, and it was actually the guy that replaced Deidre.
Yeah,
right? And he just uses it as a human shield. He don't care. He's a robot.
Well, and he used Deidre. He even goes to her prison cell. It's like, hey, I need some more intel.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm not gonna give you anything, and then she finally does,
and then that leads to his death, right?
Oh, God, so good,
and Deidre is a character you really care about, because in this season you find out her backstory. And that's what I loved about this show so much, is that you understand that the Empire was a civilization. Right, it was an evolved civilization. It wasn't the example of conquistadores arriving and imposing a culture. This was the natural historical development of the Republic, right? So this is just a civilization evolving to the next state of its government structure. These are people that didn't know anything else. It wasn't that they were evil. She was an orphan. Her parents were criminals, and she was raised in an imperial orphanage. This is the only family she's ever known. But they show she's a human being with real emotions. But most of us in her situation would have, without even thinking about it, been working for the Empire, because that's all you know. You don't know anything else. And then in the end, they betray her.
Finally, we are in the last episode, which is Andor saves her. They go back to Yavin.
Yeah,
and they need to convince the leaders that this Death Star thing is a real thing.
Which is great, because the leaders don't believe them.
No.
Even Mon Mothma's like, I don't know about this, right? No. Which ties into the next Rogue One, because they're still not on board until they realize it's real. And then what's the first reaction? Let's surrender. It's their first reaction, which is believable. Let's just tell the Emperor we surrender, because we can't fight this thing.
But then, what's so great is that there's this history here of insubordination.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? If I'm going to die on my shield, I'm going to die on my shield. Right? Luthen, Saul, Andor, and then some of the other people that he gets in Rogue One. But you see it here where they collectively finally convince, Bail Organa, Mon Mothma and the commander, right? The lieutenant that go and finally convince Bail, because they talked to Andor, they talked to the cousin. There was too many coincidences, because they're getting these emergency alerts from a guy who's Tibion, was it Rings of
Kafrene,
yeah.
And so, which is the beginning of Rogue One, right?
Yeah.
Which is great, because it literally just goes right into Rogue One, and it's but again, that's believable. It's like all these pieces are coming together at this moment. I gotta believe there's fire if there's this kind of smoke, and that's a guess. That's a guess, right? Because the same thing was happening. Again, the Trinity Project is that the Nazis knew that the Americans were building something, right? But they never quite put the Soviets infiltrated Los Alamos. The Nazis never did. They never put it together. The Soviets had a spy inside of Los Alamos, right? And what's interesting that you saw in Oppenheimer, and it's historical, is that the Nazi bomb wasn't actually real. Because the scientists that were involved in it, it was a gentleman behind the uncertainty theory from quantum physics, right? He hijacked the project. He basically said, "I'm not Heisenberg, Werner Heisenberg, right?" And so he was the German physicist who was Oppenheimer's counterpart. You even see him in the movie that they were friendly with each other. And he's brought into the Nazi regime and said, "You're going to build us a bomb." And he basically hijacked the project and turned it into a peaceful nuclear power plant stuff. He knew he could go that direction, and he did.
So he was a Galen Erso.
He was a Galen Erso.
And in the episode before and in this one, Erso, Death Star, caffeine,
all of it's mentioned. It's set up.
Jeddah. Oh, so amazing, man. And I want to say also too, the last 3 episodes, they kind of start building their way up into the look and feel of a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
By the time he is in his little outfit here, he's strutting like the best of Han Solos. You know what I'm saying?
But he's earned it after this whole journey.
He's earned it.
2 seasons of this guy who's basically a thief and he's basically a Han Solo type figure with less cockiness. He was just a survivor.
I think he's I'm gonna hear it from the crowd here, guys.
Well, he's more tortured than Solo.
He's an incredible character.
He's an incredible character.
And Andor has become this incredible hero because he was a co-star at best in Rogue One.
Yeah.
But now Rogue One hits deep.
Yeah.
With Tony Gilroy and them, they hit deep, guys. And he, at the end of this, he takes off for caffeine. He takes off to start Rogue One. And he takes off. The rebel base is they're in full mode, man. They're getting ready. We're getting ready for Rogue One, for Star Wars, New Hope. But then the final cut. Oh, right before that is Krennic. You're seeing Krennic. I put it up here in his Death Star, because Krennic is also sniveling. Ladder. What do you call it when you climb in the ladder?
Yeah, he's just social climber, but
social climber.
Yeah, that's who he was. Yeah.
So
Vader calls him out for that. Vader says, I hope you don't try not to choke on your aspirations, right? It's an aspiration. It's a very specific word. It's like this guy wants to be higher than Tarkin. He won't stop, and it's gonna get him killed.
And it gets him killed, as we know. And what we didn't know, right, obviously, was Bix. And this was the final.
So spoiler alert. I didn't see that coming.
We've had the spoilers on this whole time.
All right. I mean, so I didn't see that coming, and yet it's actually beautiful that we end with seeing that Bix, who had disappeared several episodes before, leaving him to now we realize why she was pregnant, and she knew that if he found out she was pregnant, he's out of the rebellion. He's out, and understandably so. And she kept that from him, and as a result. Andor lives on.
He lives on.
He's got a legacy. He's got a
okay. So before I go into any conspiracy theories here, Adria Arjona absolutely knocked out her role in this. Whatever you think of the storyline in the first one, but here, you got why she left, and
she's a hero too.
She's a hero too. And what did she say here? Because the baby starts cooing, right? Starts crying a little bit. Everything's gonna be okay. Yeah. You're just like, and then what does she do? She fucking smiles. It's hope.
Yeah, it's hope. That's what you do. Because rebellions are built on hope, right? And that was a necessary thing, because now they're even with Rogue One, with all the characters dead, there is now this warmth of knowing that he has his family, his line will continue.
And they even toast. You go back, right? We go back.
When they were toasting with the droids?
No, he's toasting with a cousin, Val.
Oh, yeah.
Val, they're having a great talk, because Val needs to get some more information to help him, because he believes they know each other. They toast all the people that have been dead, that like season 1 and season 2 that are just no longer like, cheers. This one's for the homies. Let's pour some out. They poured it out, man. Absolutely brilliant ending. Absolutely, I'd say you could watch the last 3 episodes of Andor season 1. That in the last 3 episodes are directed by one person, which you could tell that it just had a great feeling. Alfonso, what was his name? Fletcher, Luis Palacios, Mexican director. Shout out, he did a great job. Latino Slant right here. These 3 episodes, you could take that Rogue One, you could take that New Hope, and it has some deeper meanings, brother. What did you think? What did you think about how it lifted up the canon?
Well, I mean, like I said, I believe Rogue One to be the only thing truly worthy of being. This was something Lucas would have done, right? And I think that most of Andor, certainly most of Andor season 2, is of that rank as well. So in my personal headcanon, I consider Andor to be true. I consider Rogue One to be true. I don't consider the Disney sequels to be true. I consider that to be just made up fan fiction.
Yeah, no, we don't even need to, that's of course. So that is our breakdown, guys. I think it made Jin Erso Andor, those great characters, all the ones, the Donnie Yen, all those characters in Rogue One, it vaulted them more even. So that was very, very, very happy with this season 2, the last, I would say, 9 episodes. That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's worth it for those who gave up, or those who think, I don't even try. It really is worth it. I think this is sophisticated adult storytelling without being, I think they thought The Last Jedi was adult storytelling. That was actually childish storytelling. That wasn't, that was someone peeing on somebody, right? That was pissing on somebody. It wasn't adult. It wasn't mature. This is mature storytelling.
Yeah, Robert Mark Burnett really said it like how you said it, man, where he's like, for 10 years or more so, we've been arrested. Star Wars has been arrested in this animation kind of behavior because of Filoni.
Sure.
And I was like, yeah, wow.
I mean, I remember I interviewed with Filoni for a job, and I didn't get the job because I was, let's say, speaking about Star Wars in a way that somebody who worked with him later told me, he's like, nah, he wouldn't have gotten that. Right, he would have gotten very uncomfortable that you're talking about Star Wars in a way that he didn't understand.
So yeah, man, I highly recommend season 2. You can start at episode 4. And what is really quick, what does this say, if anything, in regards to the future of Star Wars properties, television? What do we got coming up next? Does it mean Ahsoka has to be better season 2? Because the stakes are high, man.
The stakes are high for those who watch Andor. I mean, Andor's still a divisive show.
No, but it got ratings now.
It got ratings, but even I'm just talking about the fandom. The fandoms, there's still people saying I won't watch Andor, or I didn't like Andor. But I think the majority of the people are in the pro Andor after having seen the season.
After having seen the season, you're having the critical drinkers of the world